This little video clip we will call Guerilla Gardening, and it's quite a popular. It's quite popular right now, guerrilla gardening, and we're here in this jungle in North Wales. And if we listen, I think there's one over there. I think there's a silverback.
Hang on, Ian.
What?
Is it that sort of gorilla you meant?
Oh no.
Give us your bananas.
I'll start again. This little video clip is about guerrilla gardening. Momentito.
Oh, God.
Estamos aquí en la selva de Gales del Norte. Somos guerrillas. Mira. Viva la revolución. Viva Fidel. Viva Che.
Hang on, Ian.
Yeah.
Right, gorilla?
The other sort of guerrilla gardening.
That's the one we're after.
Oh, right. There's another sort of guerrilla gardening. It entails planting trees and bushes and fruit and so on in other people's gardens or in public places. Often people will do it in council areas, or perhaps somewhere like here. This is just a piece of nothing land in between this new road. That's why we buy this new road. It's a piece of nothing land. People could plant things here, perhaps. I've been like I'm always involved, doing the fruit trees for any guerrilla gardening in North Wales. I've been involved from Hackney in London to McCulloch in Mid Wales and places in between. They seem to drag me out. So here are a few of my thoughts about it, because a lot of people like the idea, but in practice there are problems, there are things to think about. If you plant fruit bushes, currants and the like, wild strawberries and the like, they're relatively easy for people to pick. However, if you plant fruit trees, if you plant cherries and plums, easy to people to pick, they pick them off the tree, don't they? However, if you plant early apples and pears, they pick them off the tree and eat them right away. That's what people expect. If you plant late fruit, keepers, if you plant late apples, late pears and so on, people will pull them off the tree and they will be hard and horrible and chuck them. Your efforts will be wasted. The people won't know that they have to pick those fruit and store them sometimes for several months, and they don't eat, say, this particular apple, for example, St Cecilia, a very late keeping Welsh one. You wouldn't eat your St Cecilia apple until the new year. So if you're guerrilla gardening, I think it's essential that you plant species and varieties that you can eat off the tree or off the bush. Another thing is, there's no such thing, unfortunately, of planting something and walking away and leaving it for yourselves, for your offspring or for the public at large. It doesn't work like that. You will still have to look after whatever you've planted. You will have to prune it to an extent to keep disease out. You will have to weed it to keep the weeds down. So bear those things in mind. Guerrilla gardening is a fantastic concept, but it will mean work, it will mean a lot of thought and quite an amount of follow-up. Or when you plant your trees or your shrubs, remember these other trees. Look, this is an ash tree there. It's about 30 years old. It's going to be massive one day, so always look up. Always think of what other trees are going to do. I'm over here, Sarah. I'm not up a tree. There we go. So always look at the competition, basically, isn't it? Always think of things like that. Always make sure you've got disease-resistant varieties. no one's going to be able to spray those trees. No one's going to want to spray those trees. Make sure you plant disease-resistant varieties. Another even more extreme form of guerrilla grafting is what we do with our little knives. What we do with, I can't find it. What we do with our little knives.
Got other weaponry with you today.
Yeah, I haven't. What we do with our little knives, we can go along and we can graft, as in some of my other video clips, we can graft, for example, pear wood onto hawthorns growing in the wild or growing in the park.
You've got various clips on those, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got video clips on. It's called reworking
Yeah.
trees. We could graft plum wood onto existing slow trees, for example.
Yeah.
We could graft apple onto some rather boring crab apple in the park. Rather than have a pretty flowering cherry in the park, we could work that tree over and have it edible cherries for the people and of course the birds. One thing that you can also do is plant walnut trees. A walnut tree looks almost identical. This is a young walnut tree. This looks almost identical to an ash tree, and you would get away with that planting anywhere. But always remember, these things get big. This is just a sucker coming up.
Here's one you made earlier.
Here's one I made earlier. This is me. This is me and my guerrilla gardening. This is a walnut tree I probably planted about 15 years ago. But the problem with it is I wasn't thinking far enough ahead. All these other trees owned by the council, I'm having to keep cutting down and pushing back. Look at the size of this thing. This
Massive.
is massive. I've got to cut this down, otherwise squirrels will be jumping from that ash tree and stealing my walnuts. Obviously,
I'll tell you what, after today's behaviour, there won't be.
I've planted this walnut tree in the name of the people, right? But I'm not going to tell you where it is. It's somewhere in North Wales.
Possibly.
And with 6 or 7 other ones. Okay, thank you very much. That is guerrilla grafting.